Hi, this is Teresa Widowson, and I'm here at the Poppy Jasper Film Festival headquarters right next to the Cinelex Theaters in Morgan Hill. I'm going to be talking to some of the filmmakers, actors, and writers who produced and wrote some of these great films that are being shown at the festival. I'm here now with Victor Miller. Victor, thank you so much for joining us.
My delight, thank you.
So, you've written a lot of interesting array of stories, like from soap operas, like All My Children, and all the way to stories like Friday the 13th series, right?
Right.
So, how did you compare writing soap operas to Friday the 13th?
Well, actually, it's all the same thing. All you have to do in order to write soap opera or a horror movie is have a very strange set of parents who terrified me for most of my youth, and so I was already primed that my imagination was constantly thinking up the worst possible outcome in any situation. So that because I knew it was going to happen eventually, because my parents were kind of loony, and so it was natural for me to think of, oh God, well this is going to happen badly, and this is going to happen. So in the soap opera world, I just sat there and they said, well, what bad can happen today? And I'd give them 7 things. And in the same thing in the horror world, they said, how many different ways can you kill somebody? And I said, well, I was always afraid that somebody'd be under my bed. So I did that, and I didn't want to have anybody hit me in the face, so I put an axe in the face. So I used all my childhood fears and my already highly developed skill at thinking about horrible outcomes and made a living out of it. And I've exorcised almost all of them. I am probably one of the happiest people I know, and now that I know that I can make money from my fears.
Well, that's a great outcome that you ended up happy after all that.
Lucky as anything. I think one of the things that saved me is I think the really good artists, the really good creators and writers are crazier than I was. So I was just crazy enough to be a good, to earn a living at writing, but not so crazy that I was hailed as a Booker Prize winner or something like that.
But you grew up okay in spite of your fearful childhood.
Oh, and I've had some great therapy. In fact, I had one therapist turn to me in the middle of a session and say, I can't believe you don't know why you created Mrs. Voorhees as the villain in Friday the 13th. She's the mother. And it turns out that I basically gave Jason the mother I never had. The mother I had was not sort of very protective of me. Whereas Mrs. Voorhees, after her son drowned, she went around killing people just to pay people back for how bad they had been to him. And boy, I said, that's my dream mother.
Maybe a little overprotective, but...
A little, just over some limit. But it worked, and there went another demon.
Well, so I saw a bit of similarity, actually, in between the soap opera Friday the and the Friday the 13th, because they're all really kind of a continuing storyline, right?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I have had nothing to do with the sequels of Friday the 13th. I get a check when they make one, but I haven't, because I was not, for the sequels they made the villain Jason, and Jason was already dead in my movie. And I loved the movie I wrote because it had Mother as the villain, or the hero, if you like. Oh, once on Guiding Light, we had an actor who kept rewriting all of our lines. So we researched it and found a fast acting laryngitis. And so we gave it to that character, where suddenly he could not speak. And we left him that way for a couple of weeks. It was wonderful. I mean, so, you're very free to come up with any kind of zany, awful stuff you want.
That's great. I love that idea.
I think that if you use your imagination to have fun with, that somehow it gets rid of all of the grimy, awful, nasty stuff, because you're constantly using it. And And you get less and less afraid of it the more you sort of rearrange it and say, well, I think, well, Mrs. Voorhees could do this, and then da-da-da-da-da. And it's, I'm all for writing as therapy. We were always charged in the soap opera business with coming back with something like, this is the twin brother you never knew you had who has now returned and looks exactly like you. And it was basically, we had to think of how to solve the problem of an actor saying, I want to leave the show. So they'd leave the show to go be a star in Hollywood, and then they wouldn't become a star in Hollywood, and they would come back and say, can I come back on the show? And you say, well, we killed you. How can we do that? They say, well, could I be the brother I never knew I had? So the bad part was the pressure of the ratings constantly being berated by the network if you went down 0.5%. And so that, if we were allowed to just have fun, it would have been much better.
Well, and isn't the deadline like crazy for the soap operas?
I called it dancing in the Cuisinart because the blade keeps coming around. You have to do 5 hours a week. You can't just say on Friday, we'll finish this on Monday. So you have to get all 5 hours done, and then on Monday the network comes in and gives you notes and makes you change things. So now you're already a day behind. It's a crazy existence, but fortunately they paid me far too well for all this silly business, and I had a great deal of fun, and I had a lot of fun with people that I knew in the outside world, because I would tell them, you know, well, Erica is going to marry, I've forgotten who it was, somebody, and then they would go and make bets in their local saloon and win. I am delightfully retired. The only thing I write is Facebook. You can find me at Victor Brook Miller, and please do. And I write little teeny one-sentence long things, because I wrote to hire from 1972 to 2005. And I was almost always writing something somebody else wanted me to write. So I was a hired gun, and I hung up the guns, and I have not needed them since. And I don't feel the lack, you know, I don't feel like, oh God, if only I could write the great American novel. I was never destined to write the great American novel. I'm a craftsman, I'm not an artist. And once you know that about yourself, and it's happy time.
What do you do in your retirement?
I take pictures like a demon. I'm using the other side of my brain, I think. I have been taking photographs and playing with Lightroom and Photoshop and all kinds of wonderful things. I follow my 9-year-old grandson around and take pictures of him all the time. If I had known that retirement was going to be this much fun, I never would have worked.
But you got to work to get to the retirement, don't you?
Yeah, that's the bad news. We got bad news and good news, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
Loved it.
Hi, I'm here now with Fiona Gubelman. Fiona, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I know that you've worked in both film and TV a lot, and do you prefer one over the other?
I definitely prefer TV.
And why is that?
I prefer TV because I feel I grew up doing theater, so I really like the feeling of consistent work, but also having a group of people that you get to work with every week, you know, just the makeup, the wardrobe, the actors, the writers, the producers. It's like you really become a family, and you get to work together over a long period of time to create something, and I really like that. And
so you get kind of a family atmosphere going?
Exactly, yeah. I like that the family, the group, you know, just to create something together and really see what you can make.
Do you prepare for the parts in TV versus film in any different way?
I think yes, only because in television you have a lot less time to prepare. I mean, I've auditioned for stuff where I literally have gone from the callback and then gone straight to wardrobe and to a rehearsal the same day, and then I'm shooting 2 days later. And you know, you're really lucky in television when you get, you know, a week to prepare. Usually, the way you show up in your audition is what you're going to be giving when you're filming. When it comes to doing a film, you generally have a bit more time. Although I've been cast in a film on a Friday, and then the following Friday I'm filming. So sometimes you don't always have the luxury of the time to prepare, but you tend to get more time to really research the character and go into that stuff with film.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is the characters in film usually require more development anyway, because you have a longer time to show that character's arc throughout the film, as opposed to TV, and it's 30 minutes or an hour, and I mean, maybe you get to know them over the series, but for that one episode.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're a guest star, it's kind of everything moves so fast in television that they cast someone, not even always like the best actor, but it's the person who, when people at home can look at that actor, they go, that person is that character. And so you're more likely to get cast kind of as your zero casting per se in television, how people perceive you. But in film, yeah, you do have more time to really develop a character and create the arc. Although if you're like a series regular on a show, then you will be getting to spend that time creating the character over the years, hopefully, if you have 5 to 7 year series.
Right, one that goes like for 100 episodes, right?
Exactly, the 100, the magic number.
How did you get into acting, and did you always know you wanted to act, or did you do something before this?
I started doing theater when I was 4. I was doing kind of musical theater, and I did a community version of the Cabbage Patch Kids, community theater, and I would do lots of like dance recitals and things like that, and I always loved it. And I did theater all growing up, and then when I was in high school, I wanted to be. I kind of got into medicine and anatomy, and I wanted to go into. I got into UCLA as pre-med. But when I was there, I started auditioning for the plays and was getting into them, and I was like, I'm young, I'm not married, I'm just going to go after it, and what are the odds that I'll actually, anything will happen? I might as well try, and then if it doesn't work, go to medical school, and lo and behold, I've had just amazing opportunities and luck. So
well, maybe you can get a part on like, ER, or, well, I don't know how long ER is going to go on.
Not on the air anymore, but yeah.
Wait, what's the one? Oh, House, or Grey's Anatomy, yeah. You played the lead in the invited film, I Love You, which I loved, by the way. That was so cute. How did you get involved in the project?
I got involved with I Love You because I had mentioned to my agents that I really wanted to meet up with some filmmakers that weren't necessarily famous, but were just really creative people that were creating shorts that I could become friends with, that I could really like team up with and just make shorts with and get them on YouTube, get them out there, be a part of the filmmaking process instead of just an actor who shows up for an audition and books it. Like, I really like the process of it, being from the theater background. And my agent was like, cool, and then like a month or two later, he's like, hey, I met these guys, and they're gonna create a short, and go meet with them. So I met with them, and I did this one short with them, and then we really hit it off. And then they were like, hey, we want you to do this other one with us, and that was I Love You. So we shot it in 2 days, and it ended up winning. We went viral, basically, I guess is the term. We got, I think we're over 8 million hits now, and we won a bunch of awards on the internet. I mean, we had like 4 million hits in a week. It was crazy, and it was so much fun. And I think the best part about it was that we all just got along so well, and we were friends and just creating something that we loved, and then to have people love it as well was, that's just a bonus.
Yeah, I went online and looked at it, even though I'd already seen it, and one of the posts was, I just typed in I Love You in YouTube, and oh my God, look what I came up, and it just went, watch this film, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, it's funny, and I love how people are like, I've met people, and they thought I was actually deaf. They're like, oh, you were her? I thought she was really deaf, and it's funny that, but that was a great experience. I'm still really good friends with those guys, and we still work together. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is when I showed it to my husband. And he knew I was going to possibly get the opportunity to interview you. He said, well, maybe you ought to just make sure she's not really deaf. And I'm like, I know, she played that part so well, so I had to research and make sure, because...
It was hard, too, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't doing anything that was offensive or that was, mocking deaf people. And we actually, the original ending, I was like, no, that's too offensive. We have to change it. She has to win. Right. So we rewrote the ending, and she's the one who gets the.
Yeah, no, that's good. But it was completely convincing. So okay. How did you prepare for that?
I studied actors with that who actually deaf actors, and I studied the accent and worked on it until I had it. Right.
It was perfect.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, like I know, but it sounded perfect to me.
It's hard, and then I tried to learn some actual sign language, certain signs to go with it. Yeah, but that was my biggest concern. Is I was like, I don't want to be offensive. Like to me, that wasn't the humor of it. The humor of it was just the misconception that comes with the awkwardness of relationships.
Yeah, and that kind of awkwardness comes through. I mean, it happens to everyone, whether they have, hearing problems or whatever. There's also
like
that
a language barrier. So yeah, I was like,
or
I don't,
just the awkwardness of whether we
Oh, God,
do it
yeah.
or not.
Exactly.
So you're currently working on Last Stop, is that right?
I shot Last Stop in January. We shot that in New Mexico, and that was an incredible experience. It was 14 degrees out, and we were shooting, and that was with Mina Suvari and Brian Austin Green, and we shot. It was beautiful. We shot up in the mountains, and that was a great experience. And most recently, I'm working on a film called White on Rice, which is an indie film, and it's kind of like an American Pie comedy. And then I also just worked on the Paul Reiser Show. It's a new show coming out in January on NBC, and I'm also going to be starting. I'm the lead in a series that's going to be on FX starting next summer, 2011.
Oh, so do I get to ask what the name of it is?
Yeah, then the show is called Wilfred, and it stars me, Elijah Wood, and Jason Gann.
Oh, wow, what a great cast. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what's your character like in that?
Jenna is, she's very endearing. She's extremely positive, outgoing person, except she gets easily frazzled, and she's just she's new to LA, and she's trying to figure out who she is and what she's doing there, and it's a very dark comedy.
So what's the theme around the whole series?
It's kind of like Donnie Darko meets Harvey. It's basically about Elijah Wood, his character. He and I come together, we meet, I'm his neighbor, and when he meets me, he meets my dog, and instead of seeing an actual dog, he sees a guy in a dog suit. And at first you're like, is she crazy? Who's crazy? What's going on? But you do learn that it is a dog, and it is Elijah Wood's character seeing this, and it's kind of like an alter ego type, like a Fight Club style, where he's, it's this dog allows him to kind of make changes in his life and explore new things that he wouldn't have normally done before. And it's not necessarily a guardian angel, because Wilfred definitely gets him into trouble.
So when do you expect it to be out?
We think it's going to start airing early summer 2011.
Oh, great. I'm going to have to program it in. I don't know if it'll program that much ahead.
So, yeah. DVR usually works like 14 days ahead of time.
Yeah. I might have to wait a while before I can program it in. Is there a character type that you prefer to play if you had a choice?
I'm trying to think here. I love playing really, really bubbly characters. I definitely like to play like neurotic characters too, and then people that are just don't quite have a grasp on reality. I definitely like to play characters. I think it's fun to do something different and to do that.
Get you out of your own mind and into the mind of strange beings.
Yeah. Just to kind of get my no focus on me. Put it on someone else.
So what's your favorite movie? Do you have a favorite or?
I'd say Moulin Rouge, and I loved Pan's Labyrinth. So, Guillermo del Toro is just a genius. He's incredible, and Baz Luhrmann too. I love both those movies. So.
Oh, those sound. I loved when Pan's Labyrinth came out. It was so dark but so imaginative, so creative, and beautiful.
And beautiful. And I remember when I saw it, I was actually so impressed with Guillermo del Toro. I went and literally rented and watched all his movies. I became obsessed with him because he's such a genius, and I read some of the books that he'd read that inspired him. And because it's great when you really like a director or a writer to understand how they kind of see things and what inspires them.
So where do you see yourself in 30 years?
30 years old.
No, that's not old.
I see myself. I don't know. Hopefully, I'll have a couple series and a bunch of films that I loved working on. Happily married with a good family, well traveled, and hopefully playing the piano. Maybe, yeah.
So you're a musician?
No, I just want to learn.
Well, you should be able to do that in your spare time, right? What do you do in your spare time? Or do you have any?
Spare time.
So if you could play anyone in any movie that has already been made, or maybe a movie that hasn't been made yet, who would it be?
Well, I mean, I would have loved to have been in Moulin Rouge, but I love Nicole Kidman. She's like one of my absolute favorite actresses, so I'm so glad she did it. But that would be like, if they could do the remake, I would love to do that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Moulin Rouge too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'd love to. I want to do some fantasy stuff where I get to wear really neat costumes and makeup. You know, I love that. That's what I love about film is the fantasy aspect and just getting to play things that aren't necessarily like you. So.
Well, and you can go not only to any time, but to any place, any parallel universe, you know, anywhere, right?
I love science fiction, so to me that's really exciting. But yeah, just really creative, you know, imaginative stuff. And
maybe the next Star Trek movie then.
I would love that, but play like an alien or something. So.
Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me, and you know, enjoy your time at the film festival.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
I had the pleasure and opportunity to direct Fiona in a play that we did together last season that Peter Lefcourt wrote, La Ronde de Lunch. And Fiona was wonderful. When she came in for the audition, she was the character, which the character is a bimbo. But the smartest bimbo, truly. And I mean, she was the smartest character in the whole play. So, you know. But what she did at the audition, I don't know if there are any actors here. Are there any actors here? Yes, good. She was the character. You know, she walked in and we immediately just kind of sat back and watched, and we knew that she was going to take care of us, that we didn't have to worry about her. Do you know what I mean? It's just that she was that person, and her attitude, her talent, and her work ethic. And I think that that's also why you've been so successful, because you really have been. I mean, I'm really, really proud of you and happy for you that the kind of work that you heard that she's been doing and will continue to do comes from her talent and her ability to just share who she is, her intelligence, everything about her. So it was a pleasure working with you, dear.
I felt the same way. It was actually, I mean, I told you this earlier, but Terry was one of the best directors that I've ever worked with, and that I think for those of you who are actors aspiring actors, you want to, you know, we've actually trained at the same acting school, and what's so great about where we've trained is that they really teach you how to make your own choices and to really create, you know, the character and what you want to bring to it, because when you're working in the real world, you rarely work with directors that know how to work with actors. Usually they're technical directors. So it's very rare that you actually get any direction, and you have to show up knowing what you want to do, what you want to create. And what was so amazing about working with Terry was that she has this way of, you know, inspiring you to create, and she asks so many questions that really get you thinking about who is this character, and it just, you know, it's like she'd ask me a question and then all these ideas would pop into my head. So in a way, she knew what she wanted to create, but like she was letting it create through me, and you know, it's like a role model to me, just because you're such a strong, intelligent woman, and it was wonderful working with you.
Thank you.
So. Yeah.
All right, we're done. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My goodness.
How did you start?
You're really. I was born in Toronto. You too? Okay. Interesting family where I guess I needed to always express and, you know, be the center in a certain way or get attention. So that led me into acting, and left Canada, went to the States, where I just was acting and did whatever I could, and did a lot of work, actually, a lot of TV and commercials, and went to the Beverly Hills Playhouse. Milton Gutsellis was our teacher, brilliant, brilliant man, and he taught me that you needed to be able to direct yourself, because you know, if you were lucky to have a great director, great, but you know, out of all the directors I worked with, maybe 5 were really something special. So teaching myself how to direct, I realized that I could actually direct other people. And I'm also a photographer working with a lot of actors, and I was able to bring out in them what I needed for the photograph. So I was photographing Mary Kay Place, who I think you might know. She's a wonderful actress, and currently she's on Bored to Death, and she's on Big Love. Do you know Mary Kay Place is?
Yeah.
Great, wonderful. I used to date her brother. So she, and I stayed there at one point because we didn't have a place to stay. And I said, if there's anything I can ever do for you, Mary Kay. She goes, well, Terry, I see pictures you did of Ken, and you know, I hate being photographed, so can you photograph me? So I said, yes. So I photographed her. This is several years later. I was married to Peter, left court, and he had written a short film for me to be in called A Day in the Life, which was a day in the life of an actress. Because I would come home and I would tell him all these unbelievable things that the actress would have, you know, I mean, unbelievable, right? Changing in your car and these auditions. And so he wrote that for me, and I thought Mary Kay should direct that. So I asked her if she would direct. And she said, well, Terry, let me think about it. So she came over for dinner and she said, now I've been praying about this, Terry, and I think that you should direct because you're the director. You know, when when the camera is there and you're on the other side, I feel comfortable, so you direct. So she inspired me, basically. Basically, I did what everybody had been saying, but somehow I heard it from her. And I directed that for a short, and it did well, and then I thought, okay, I'm a director.